Now, I know I'm late to the party, but I decided it's time to make a Genshin Impact character tier list because my opinion is different from a lot of other people's opinions on the characters and where they belong on a tier list. On top of that, I'm bored, and what better way to pass time than to judge all of your favorite and not favorite Genshin Impact characters. Now, this is in no way facts. I guarantee you I am not going to be spitting facts to most people, maybe some people. So take this tier list with a grain of salt because I am not to be trusted. I'm going to also mention that this is assuming all of the characters are at C0. I'm rating them on how good they are out of the box. And on top of that, I'm going to be rating them based on their intended purpose and how good they are at doing it. Because if I focused on one particular thing, I honestly don't think this would be very fair to just base it on one thing. So I'm rating them how they are at C0, and I'm also rating how good they are at their intended purpose. So with all that crap out of the way, I'm going to get started. Alright, so first we have the Anemo Traveler. I honestly am going to have a hard time placing him because I haven't played him much. As soon as I got Amber and Kaya, I threw him to the dumpster. I don't know why. I don't have much experience. So, I mean, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from other people, he isn't that good. He, she, whoever you chose, he isn't that good. So because of that, I can't put him any higher than a C tier. And this all depends on the artifacts you have. Because with the free characters, or 4 stars, like characters like that, they're a lot harder to make better than like 5 stars and stuff. Especially the Traveler, which is a 5-star, but I personally don't use the Traveler, and I haven't used the Traveler in months. Next up is Albedo, and he belongs nowhere other than S+. Albedo is so good at what he does. He's a really good support character, and if you pair him with, you know, Zhongli or whatever, you can have some pretty sick Geo stuff going on there. Albedo's great. Next up is Amber. I'm sorry, Amber mains, but Amber's going in the D tier, and here's why. Amber's kit makes no sense. Alright, she is a bow character, and her ultimate, or elemental burst, it is close range. Considering her E skill is throwing something that distracts enemies, you would think that you would be able to control where her burst goes. Maybe you could try to shoot a Baron Bunny, then, I don't know, somehow control the burst to land on where all the enemies are grouped up because they're distracted or whatever. But instead of that, it just falls so close to you. It doesn't make sense. It's a close range burst, and her E is very finicky. I'm not saying she's bad at damage output. I just don't really like her because her kit doesn't make really much sense. Next up is Barbara. I want to punish Barbara on this tier list because this recent Klee banner has given me like 4 Barbaras and 2 of them to pull, and that was really making me upset, you know. But I have to look at this objectively, not how I personally feel about the characters. Barbara, her C6 is actually pretty good. Like reviving dead teammates, that is really helpful. And she's Hydro, so you can also use her to set up elemental reactions if you wanted to. I'm going to put Barbara in, I'm going to say high B tier. High B tier. Not quite A tier, but not quite leaving, like she's still in that B tier, but just barely. She's like leaning more toward, I'll keep her in B for now. Next is Beto. I'm going to keep it a dime with you, or that's not the saying. I'm going to keep it real with you, alright? I don't really play Beto anymore. After I got all the other characters that I have, I stopped using her. And I'm putting her in C tier. I wouldn't say disappointing, I would say more lackluster. Like, if you give her the good artifacts and you get her to C6, maybe. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. We're grading this off a Constellation 0 basis. So because this Barbara's at C0 and she can't revive her teammates, nah, you know what, she's fine. She can stay in, she's still B tier. She's just not as close to A tier as she was. She's now in the lower B tier. But anyway, back to Beto. If you did have constellations for her, maybe. But again, this is a C0 basis. And as I said, she's just lackluster. I don't enjoy her playstyle either. Like, none of her skills are that fun to me. Like, sure, it's cool to, like, deflect attacks or whatever, but it feels like her kit is missing something. I don't know what it is, but I doubt it. I don't think they're gonna do anything or change her at all. But I feel like she is missing something in her kit, and that's really holding her back. Next is Bennett. Yeah, you go in S+. Bennett's great. Next is Chongyun. I haven't really... I mean, I played with him early game, and from what I experienced, he was pretty good. He does decent passable damage, and he's also good for being an elemental support, which I see tons of people do if they don't have other characters that are later here. So, Chongyun, you can go on A tier. Next is Diluc. He's between these two. He's a really, really good damage dealer. He really is. But this is a C0 Diluc we're talking about here. So we're going to put him in high S tier. Next is Diona, whatever you want to call her. She is a cryo support character that heals and does shields. I'm going to put her at A tier. And I'll explain. It's because, for me, I don't know how annoying it is for other people, but for me personally, I really don't like switching over to do her shields often. And because her shields don't have an extremely long duration, places like Spiral Abyss Floor 11, Diona's shields are like really hard to pop off. Like the uptime drops because of that. Next is Fischl, and this could go either way because I see people using her as DPS and others as support. For support C0, I'll throw her up in A tier as well. Because she's really good with her Oz, and that allows you to get all sorts of reactions. Like if you want to pair Cryo with that, you want to pair Hydro and get Electro Charge. You can use her for a lot of things. She's a very versatile support. Next is Ganyu, and there's no question about where she's going either. She's going S+ all the way. She's meant for damage, obviously, and she delivers. She feels like she is in another dimension. She does not really belong. She's so out of place. Like, every shot, crit hits are fatal. It doesn't matter how much health an enemy has. Ganyu will delete them, no problem. Next is Hu Tao. She also goes in S+ tier. I got to do the trial for her, but I never actually got her. She's really, really fun to play. I love her play style, and if I had her, I would be using her instead of Diluc. The next is Jean. Now, Jean's interesting, because she's that character you always lose the 50-50 with. You always get her when you lose the 50-50, and it is very annoying. But she is a support, and I see people playing her as DPS too. But I use her for support I have her on my other account again. And she's not too bad. She's really good. She goes in A tier. Next is Kaya. I'm gonna put Kaya in D tier with Amber. I'm sorry. I loved Kaya when I first got him, but over time he just started feeling significantly weaker than all of my other characters. His elemental burst, while good and freezes enemies, it's kind of underwhelming. Next is Keychain, and she goes in A tier. It's between these two. I really enjoy using her. Her E skill's good for evading things. It's good for like getting to enemies quick without getting hit. You can use her E skill for a lot of things, and her Q is fun to use. Next is Klee. I feel like Klee, to me, is low S tier. She's definitely behind Diluc in my opinion, and that is because her animation is so slow. Next is Lisa. Yeah, you know what, I'm looking at Kaya, and I might put him up to C tier. Because he's not Amber level of bad, but Lisa definitely is. She definitely is. I have not touched her really at all. I never liked her playstyle, like, ever. Her kit, I just don't really like it that much. The first time I played Lisa was the last time well, no, it really wasn't. I did the elemental trials with her a few times. but I don't dig her Q at all. Geo Traveler. Geo Traveler can go to B tier. Geo Traveler is without question better than the Animo Traveler because of the geo structures that you can pair up with Zhongli. You can get some pretty good geo damage bonuses there. So, I mean, yeah, the Geo Traveler is not on the same level as these people. That's why B tier. Mona. I'm gonna put Mona in A tier. That's pretty generous for her because that's mainly because of her burst. I really like her burst, and she's kind of fun to use. Her water sprint thing, it can inconvenience you at times, but it also really helps because you go in water faster when you are sprinting or swimming with Mona. So that's also a bonus. So she also gets A tier for that too. Next is Ningguang, S tier. That's just the way it is. She might be a 4-star, but she's really, really freaking good. I love her Jade screens. Again, another good thing to pair with Zhongli, her Jade screens, and you can mop the floor with enemies with that. You build her right, you give her the good stuff, and she is a really, really good damage dealer and support if you want it. But oh my god, I love Ningguang. Next is Noelle. We gotta put our personal feelings aside for Noelle, because as much as it annoys me that Noelle's on almost every banner, she gets a beginner's wish, you're guaranteed to get her. She gets 2 hangout events. Like, she is the crown child of Genshin. The developers love her so much. Noelle's gonna go into A tier too. She does pretty good damage. Her, again, not talking about constellations here, but if she is C6, she slaps. Even as Noelle being a C0, her shield is really helpful. It stops enemies from damaging you, and you can heal all the characters on your team. So if you give her the right artifacts, I'm not joking you throw down your Q, and everyone's at full health in like 5 seconds. It's actually insane. Putting aside, we have Paimon here. Paimon's F tier. I don't like her. She's annoying. Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi can go into another A in between A and S. I haven't played... Chi-Chi's one of those characters as well that I haven't really played enough to give a good analysis and synopsis on her. So the best she's going to get is A tier, but when I do play her, she does her job pretty well. She's a good support character. You can do DPS with Chi-Chi too. That's also not uncommon. But I've never built her for DPS, so I wouldn't know that side of it. Next is Razor. Razor can go into B tier. C0 Razor is nothing to, like, I don't know, write home about. You would need a pretty good support character, like someone who has a burst that allows Razor to get electro reactions with it. His damage is pretty good, but at a certain point, at least in my game experience here on Genshin, Razor slowly becomes less and less needed. Sucrose. I will give you an S+. Sucrose, actually, I'm gonna throw you here. I think S+ was a little too crazy there. But still, S is really good. Sucrose is, her burst is just, I like it. You can mix a bunch of different elements in there. You can swirl Pyro. You can swirl Electro and Cryo. It's great because it's constantly applying an element that you throw in there, and then you can switch to your DPS or whatever character that you want to use an elemental reaction with. You can get really good elemental reactions, especially if you pair Sucrose and Zhang Ling together. Next is Child. Oh, Child. I'm gonna put you in A tier. That's generous. I don't think Child deserves an S tier. He is a damage dealer, no doubt. He can also be used as support, but his skills do not stay with him if you switch out. So if you like leave with your burst, well, I mean, you can't really switch because he has a static burst where he just slashes everything in front of him. But aside from that, Child has a 45-second cooldown on his most effective weapon, if you use it to its full duration. The cooldown is what's holding him back, because not too many people use Child as a charged bowshot DPS. Everyone's going to use him for his E skill, and once he's out of his E skill, your DPS just plummets. Next is Venti, and Venti's going to go into S+. He deserves to be there. He's great. His Q is phenomenal. It groups up enemies and like literally flings them around. It's getting all of the enemies in one place, so you can come in there and start doing massive, or a character with massive AoE to just come in and start cleaning them out. You will clean house with Venti if you group all of the enemies together and then go in there with your DPS character. You can make quick work of pretty much anything. Next is Zhangling. She goes in S tier, right next to Sucrose. Really good for setting up reactions. She used to be my character of choice for setting up reactions, and I mean, she kind of still is. I almost always put her on the second half of Spiral Abyss, floor 9 and 10. I always use her on those two floors on the second team, because number one, all of the enemies are Cryo or Hydro. It's one of the two. Come on, switch it up. But if you have enemies like that in the Spiral Abyss, and you have Zhangling, use her. She's really good. Her E skill, it shoots flames out all over the place. And then when you charge up her Q, you can just go to town with your DPS, proc crazy amounts of reactions. You will get a reaction every single time you use an elemental skill with your DPS. Or for someone like Child and Zhangling go together really well. So if you have these two and they're relatively built, you should definitely put these two on a team together. Zhangling's Q and his E skill, pretty good. Another S tier character for me, Zhao. Next is Xingqiu, and he goes into S+ tier. This dude is another really good support character. You can proc lots of Hydro reactions, like if you use D-Luke, you can get Vaporize easy. If you use, like, I don't know, Eula or something, you can get good Frozen reactions. You can do so many elemental reactions with this guy, and it's nuts. His Q is nuts. It just shoots like water swords every time you attack an enemy. It's really good. Next up, we have Xinyan. Xinyan is gonna, hit the B tier. Another character whose playstyle I'm not too crazy about. I like her shield. I like how it like bumps out that pyro damage. But everyone, and it's so hard, because I know it's not true, but it is so hard for me to stay out of that common thing that everyone says, that Xinyan is just a 4-star D-Luke. They're two different characters, and their skills are pretty different. Xinyan does shields, and D-Luke is all about going ooga booga. And even though she does have shields, she is not the first character that, produces shields that I would pick. Next is Zhongli. He goes into S+ tier. He's broken, alright? That is the most simple way I can say it. Zhongli is actually broken. Where do I begin? His pillars do AoE geo damage. They cause other geo structures to also radiate geo damage. So if you have them with Albedo and Ningguang and the Geo Traveler, all of those structures are going to start radiating geo damage. Not only do they do that, but upon hitting an enemy, it reduces their resistance. So they take more damage. And if that isn't enough, he also gives you shields that are really freaking durable. And if that still isn't enough, he drops planets on hordes of mobs and completely incapacitates them for a short amount of time. Next is Rosaria, and I honestly do not know where to put her, because I got her, and I'm going to be real with you, I've never ever played with Rosaria. I don't know much about her. So I don't think it would be fair for me to rate her. So I will not do it. Because if I put her on C tier or B tier, be like, oh, I haven't played her, and then everyone's going to get mad at me for being like, oh my god, she's so good. So I will not be putting Rosario on this tier list because I've never played her at all. I've only leveled her up to get like fates or whatever. I haven't actually played her. Next is Yanfei. And I don't know. It's either S tier or A tier. Her attacks always do pyro damage. Her charge shots are stupid powerful. But the one drawback of all of it, if you don't manage your stamina right, you're gonna suffer. Alright, so she's gonna go into A tier. Because so many times, if you spit, because she can attack really fast. So if you do all these charge attacks, which that's where she shines, so you're obviously going to be using them. If you don't pay attention to your stamina, you're going to eat through it, and it might run out at the wrong time, like in the Spiral Abyss. Like there's an enemy about to jump on you, but you can't sprint out of the way because you lost your stamina. So she's at A tier because of my stupid ass, who doesn't pay attention to anything at all. Next is Eula. Eula's also going to go into S tier. She's also dummy good. Alright? I did a video recently where I did the Spiral Abyss, and I couldn't beat floor 11. But you know what I did? I off camera, because who wants to watch me grind? That's kind of boring. I grinded, I leveled her up. I gave her new artifacts. I leveled up her talents. And took her to floor 11, which also had a 75% physical damage buff. And I just cleaned house. All of the enemies were dying. She was hitting, like, when I activated Bennett's attack boosting healing circle, or Fantastic Voyage, she was hitting off crazy amounts of damage. Something you wouldn't even see with, like, Diluc's normal attacks. Like, it was actually nuts. As you can see, most of the characters, in my opinion, are really good. Alright? Because there aren't a lot of, like, really bad characters in the game. There aren't a lot of them. Most of the characters are really good. Because although A tier isn't the same as S plus tier, A tier is also really good. And let me just clarify that you can definitely clear Spiral Abyss floor 12 with A tier characters. You can. You could complete it, I don't know about 3-star floor 12. With like C and D tier characters, because I've seen people do it. It's just not fun for most people, and they would rather use characters that are easier to make good. So this is the tier list. I know people are going to have different opinions from me on this one. So I honestly want to hear what you think about these characters, where you would put them in a tier list, because Genshin is that one game where, because it's PvE, there isn't really a meta. It's all down to personal preference, mostly. So I know this tier list here is probably vastly different from a majority of you guys. So if you want to go and make one of these tier lists for yourself, I'll leave the link in the description. And you can also tell me how wrong my opinions are here. But yeah, that's going to wrap this up, and I will see y'all later. Peace.